can't shout at me.
I will shout at you. I can preside over this, over you.
You can't.
I talk for 5 minutes.
You cannot.
Then somebody talk for 15 minutes.
I'm also a president.
Don't talk with that, please. I can preside over this meeting.
You can't.
That is the protocol.
No.
A full-blown shouting bout in Nigeria's Senate. We'll give you details of that story shortly, but first, this good news from the oil industry. You're welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The Dangote Petroleum Refinery has attained a major operational milestone with the full restoration and optimization of its crude distillation unit and motor spirit production block, hitting 650,000 barrels per day capacity and making it the first refinery in the world to achieve this feat. A statement from the company on Wednesday said both the crude distillation and motor spirit production units are now running at optimal performance, further strengthening the steady state operations of the refining facility. Following a scheduled maintenance exercise on the CDU and MS block, the refinery has also commenced an intensive 72-hour series of performance test runs in collaboration with licensor UOP. These tests are designed to validate operational efficiency and confirm that all critical parameters meet global standards. Chief Executive Officer David Bird says all remaining processing units will begin their respective performance test runs in Phase 2, scheduled to commence next week. In other news, the new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, yesterday expressed shock over the reports that the U.S. Congress is considering a bill which named the party's national leader alongside others for potential targeted sanctions. This followed the new bill introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives seeking sweeping oversight measures, including the imposition of a visa ban and asset seizure on former Kano State Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso over what the bill described as systemic religious persecution and mass atrocities in Nigeria. The move, which is still at the proposal stage if it materializes, could subject the former Nigerian presidential candidate to travel restrictions and financial sanctions when adopted and implemented. The bill is also seeking potential sanctions and possible terrorist designations of Fulani militia groups. Aside from those they termed Fulani ethnic nomad militias in Nigeria, the lawmakers also listed Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN, and Miyetti Allah Kautal Hore as two other organizations that should be sanctioned. The United States is planning to send about 200 troops to Nigeria to train the country's military as the nation battles insurgents across swaths of its northern territory. According to the Washington Post, the U.S. officials said the troops will supplement a handful of United States military personnel already on the ground in Nigeria. The deployment will follow increased security partnership between both nations since U.S. President Donald Trump redesignated Nigeria as a country of particular concern over Christian genocide claims. Last week, Dagvin Anderson, U.S. Africa Command AFRICOM commander, visited Nigeria's capital city of Abuja and was received by the President Bola Tinubu. The additional troops expected to arrive in the coming weeks will provide training and technical guidance, including by helping their Nigerian counterparts coordinate operations that involve airstrikes and ground troops simultaneously. Moving on, dramatic scenes at the Senate on Wednesday as Minister of Works Dave Umahi appeared before the Joint Committee of the National Assembly to defend his ministry's 3.4 trillion naira. Trouble started after some of the lawmakers picked offense at the minister's response to their queries, resulting in a slight face-off between the minister and Senator Adams Oshiomhole, culminating subsequently into a full-blown shouting bout between the presiding chairman, Rufai Hanga, and principal officer Onyekachi Nwomboyi. Arise correspondent Omo Bazwaye tells us more.
The budget defense session, which was supposed to provide clarity on how Nigeria intends to spend 3.4 trillion naira to improve its road infrastructure, soon became chaotic as all hell was let loose.
You can't shout at me.
I will shout at you.
At the center of the high drama is Senator Onyekachi Nwomboyi and presiding committee chairman, Senator Rufai Hanga. Nweboye became upset after anger continually hits the gavel, trying to stop him after he went on an endless praise of the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi.
You can't shout at me.
I will shout at you.
I'm
I can preside over this over you.
You can't.
I spoke for 5 minutes.
You cannot.
But somebody spoke for 15 minutes.
I'm also a president
Don't talk with that, please.
They all ask questions. You're just praising the minister. You should allow us to thank him. Excuse me.
Efforts from other senators like Ali Ndume to calm Nweboye fell on deaf ears as the Ebonyi State Senator went on and on, saying that being a principal officer from the ruling party, he can take over the session.
But equally, I must tell you here that it was wrong for you to refer to an elderly person and to a leader too that is from the minority.
Yes, that is what he is.
Yes, I must tell you the truth. I must tell you the truth.
cannot tell me to stop.
I don't think
stop for 15 minutes.
I'm
talking for 5 minutes and the should stop. I can't stop.
I was elected with 10 times the votes.
Your camera.
But there was a build-up to the confrontation between Nweboye and Anga. A few of the lawmakers are taking exception to the way the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, was responding to their questions. The toughest query came from Senator Adam Oshiomhole, who wanted to know why the Abuja-Kaduna road was revoked from Julius Berger and allegedly awarded to a generator manufacturing company, Meikano, that is little known for road construction.
You have no regret revoking it from Julius Berger. Fine. I am not a director of Julius Berger. I probably will also do the same for our institute. But what I fail to understand is why you award the contract to a new company that is formed by Meikano. Meikano has been known for generator distribution.
Umahi's defense was to challenge the lawmakers to come and inspect one of the roads being undertaken by the company, vying to resign if they find the road to be substandard.
And my answer to the single senator is, I challenge you for project inspection and bring the best of your consultants. If you do it and it fails, I will throw in the towel.
Next was the observation regarding tokens of 14 million naira projects cited in the Ministry of Works budget, including that of Odukpani Ikodekpene Road, which the minister explained were optical illusions.
What I see here is more like a dissimulation because 14 million is
NMPC project notional appropriation.
okay. So this is just an optical illusion.
Yes.
We'll leave it there. Thank you.
Earlier, Umahi had lamented the poor releases for 2025, which he said was barely 9% of the total capital expenditure of 2.2 trillion naira. Omo Bazwai, Arise News.
Well, residents of Kutaho and Kugur communities in Aribi ward of Kagago local government area of Kaduna State have deserted their homes following a deadly midnight bandit attack that led to the abduction of a Catholic catechist, his heavily pregnant wife, and about 30 other persons. Confirming the incident to Arise News, the parish priest of St. Joseph Catholic Church, Kutaho, Linus Masi Bobai, said fear has gripped the area, forcing over 90% of the residents to flee to neighboring villages for safety. According to him, the attack occurred around 2 a.m. on Monday when armed bandits stormed the communities after earlier issuing threats and ransom demands to residents. He explained that the bandits launched a coordinated attack while he was away in Kaduna procuring textbooks for St. Joseph's School. The cleric disclosed that the attackers abducted 16 persons from Kutaho, including a Catholic catechist, his pregnant wife, and their baby. Another 16 persons were taken from Kujur, bringing the total number of abducted victims to 32. All right. Oh, gosh, you're always so sad to report incidents like this, isn't it?
16 persons were taken from Kujuru?
Yes.
Kujuru?
Kujuru, yeah.
Again?
Yes.
Kajuru. Again?
No. Kajuru is different. This is another.
Is it Kujuru? Or...
This Kujuru. Yes, Kujuru. And Kajuru was K-A-J, very similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it happened in Kaduna.
Yes, in Kaduna State, yeah.
What did I say the last time? It will happen again. You can see. We are a country of deceit. And if we don't stop deceiving ourselves, maybe we'll get things right. Till today, the Federal Security Forces have not been able to nip this malicious attempt. We've not been able to stop it. It's become a cultural thing. People don't fear the security authorities of the state again. Hence the conversations about complicity. I mean, we're talking about Kwankwaso's name and Mayeti Allah and all of that. The question we should even ask the government is, where are the terrorist financiers the Dubai authorities talked about? You are prosecuting Malami because he didn't prosecute those terrorist financiers. The government has been there for how many years? Why can't they prosecute them? You see, there's a mass level of indictment on our government and complicity. And the question is, why are we worried that people like America are telling us what to do when we have lost our sovereignty by not being able to speak truth to power? And when I was saying here, bless Oji's soul, that it will happen again, Oji felt sad. She thought I was a prophet of doom. But it's become a cultural thing. Why are we deceiving ourselves? What happened in Kwara? So today, have they brought the people to book that perpetrated those acts? No. Today we are having another one in Kaduna. The question is, when next will it happen? In all of this, we never hear that the security authorities got there in the nick of time and saved the situation. All we hear is they came after 10 hours, just like what happened in Kwara. Maybe they've deployed the operation Sakan Savannah, Savannah Shield. Savannah Shield. How many Savannah Shield has the Savannah operation shielded in Woro? Have you heard that they said they killed the body? What did we hear recently in Kwara? That they killed a forest guard officer. So let's keep deceiving her. Is that deceit too that also goes into the Senate Inquisition? When they are asking a minister, if it's Rufai now, everybody will shout and be screaming and filling their head. And just ask a basic question. You take contract from Julius Berger, you gave it to this company. Justify why you gave it to this company. He say, come and inspect the project. You see the misnomer in the thinking. And some people are supporting him. What we are saying is contract integrity, following of due process. They say the company is doing generator. Come and justify. I thought he would have said no. The company has a track record. They've done this, they've done that, they've done this, they've done that.
The bidding process was more competitive.
And the bidding process was more competitive, and this is the way it went. He said, come and explain. You see, that's a clear case of kill like kill a Jew. He deflected, started assaulting people. Then the next thing, when they tried to prevail, we didn't play that part. The next thing, he said, I'm a distinguished Nigerians. Don't use words at me. At a Senate that is doing oversights. But in the end, with all this oversight the Senate does, do we fish out anything? At least from that process, we hear that they are owing contractors about 2 trillion. So when I was telling the minister yesterday, you see, a lot of people just think Rufai just talks. Rufai talks because he loves this country too much. And he doesn't have any other passports anywhere. When I was telling the minister yesterday here that your reforms have not worked, your budget is in shambles. A lot of people thought I was just talking.
Yeah, that's the Minister of Budget and
yes, the former governor of KB. A lot of people thought I was stupid. Can you not see that they are owing contractors 2.2 trillion? Can you not see that they are carrying over projects from 2025 to 2026? Can you not see? Is it me? Can you not see that Mr. Umahi is complaining about funding, that there's a paucity of funds? At the same time, they will sell the narrative, what I call the narrative as regards casino economy. That things are working, we are making a lot of revenue. So it's a country that culture is strategy for breakfast. And that's why we have the mass level of hypocrisy. And these things will continue to happen except we start to tell ourselves the truth. I know this is not part of the topic, but just like the way they are making all sorts of false arguments, you have been able to stumble on a video where Mahmoud, those that invented beavers and IREV, where they said expressly that the process is almost fail-proof. In fact, he said that they have mapped out all the countries, they have less blind spots in the rural areas, and that the technology, you can still transmit without network. But when you move to an area, I wrote the interview yesterday with Peter Okoche of BBC, formerly of BBC, that when you move to the area where there's network, today, in fact, I was speaking, before I got on the air, I was speaking to technology experts, election technology experts, and they confirmed to me that what we should even be looking at now is the fidelity of the results by saying the location at which the transmission of the result is done must be stated, and it should be time-stamped, rather than having conversation about real time. That's the extensive meeting I was having before I came on there. So all the argument of no network, you see, we've quashed and destroyed and make useless this argument.
All right, thank you, Rufai. Dr.
Okay, let me start by congratulating the Dangote Refinery, which is, an affirmation of the commitment at a personal level of Alhaji Aliko Dangote and also the Dangote Petroleum Refinery generally to deliver on the 650,000 barrels per day promise when that $20 billion worth of a refinery, single train, the largest in Africa, was announced previously. Now they've made that target. And now they can even go further, and hit 700,000, 750,000, to the extent that it is to the benefit of Nigerians. Energy security in Nigeria, promise made, promise delivered. I think it is, as the Dangote Refinery spokespersons have described it, indeed a milestone. This reminds us of the fact that the Nigerian government had Kaduna Refinery, Warri Refinery, and all of that, which in fact have more than single trains. They have, so many tracks. They have not worked. So this is a salute to individual vision of Alhaji Aliko Dangote and also of the achievements of that particular refinery. However, in Nigeria, Nigerians always find every way to attack anything that is good, that is positive. I understand that some persons within the industry, they've now gone to the FCCPC, that's the commission in charge of competition and price control. What they are saying is that, Dangote Refinery is anti-competitive, it changes prices at point of sale and all of that. Well, it seems to me that this is about market dynamics. If the price of crude oil, spot price, goes down, then it is just automatic that the pump price would go down. And that was the expectation originally when the argument was made that, look, let's have a free market flow in the oil and gas industry. So maybe perhaps those who have petitioned the FCC, the Federal Consumer and Competition Protection Commission, do not understand the basic dynamics. If I'm wrong, I await their, correction. But the more important thing at the end of the day is that, look, this is to the benefit of Nigerians. That is what we are interested in. It has shown also at this time when the federal government is already talking about the possible sale of, government holding assets, that in fact the private sector can do a lot more where government has failed. And in this regard, if they are going to sell assets like all these moribund refineries, which Engineer Bayo Ojulari, the head of the group managing director of NNPCL himself, has already admitted, most recently, not functioning, and that money spent on rehabilitation is a waste of money. Let me add that the appropriate body to do the sale of those refineries, either as scrap or whatever is remaining there, is the National Council on Privatization, because there is a National Council on Privatization Act. It's not the NNPC. NNPC is not the owner. We have a National Council on Privatization that is, a creation of the act. And in that process, if they take our advice, transparency and accountability should be very key. Now, as for the issues in the Senate yesterday, the Senate has been running a series of meetings, budget hearings, they call it, at the committee level. Now, yesterday was particularly a chaotic day. You have cited the example of the Minister of Works making his presentation, but that was not the only incident yesterday. There was also the committee on steel, where the Minister of Steel came to defend his budget, and Senator Natasha Akpoti was not allowed to make a point. Now, we don't know what the circumstances were, and there's been a sexist interpretation of it out there. However, it just shows the nature of the work of the parliament. Nobody should disrespect the other, whether you are female or male. But those who are putting a sexist interpretation on Senator Akpoti's case, I've also seen now that also in the case of the Ministry of Works, the Committee on Works, looking at the matter, the thing almost degenerated into fisticuffs with between Senator Umahi and also Senator Oshiomhole, and then Senator Nwabenyi, who was on this program yesterday, having a confrontation with Senator Rufai Anga, from Kano Central. Now, okay, then you also had the Ministry of Women Affairs, the Committee on Women Affairs, where the Honorable Minister was saying, look, these NGOs are the problem with women affairs in the country, because they go and corner funding from development partners, and that the federal government should begin to look at these NGOs who corner money, because they don't account for the money and they don't synergize with the ministry. So, on the surface of it, it would be right to say that the Senate at work, just doing its work. However, whatever may have happened, it's not unusual. After all, this week, in the Turkish parliament, in fact, people came to blows in the Turkish parliament over the issue of disagreement about the justice minister taking out of office. They started beating each other up. We don't recommend that kind of Portuguese and Turkish behavior in our parliament. But two things from the various sessions that they had in the National Assembly that I would like to summarize very quickly is that one, North-South divide. There is no unity between the North and South of Nigeria. This is the major subtext. Because you had Senator Nwabenyi, who is, I think, Deputy Chief Whip, saying that, I'm senior to you in this parliament. I can take over your chairmanship of the position. And Senator Anga reminded him, who are you? I have more votes from you, more than you. I'm from Kano. Where are you from? Where is he from, actually? Ebonyi. You see that back and forth. Even when you had Senator Umahi making his presentation, the major issue was about Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria Road. And that's the subtext. That's one. The second one is that our ministers of the various agencies, they went to that National Assembly to ask for money. The whole idea of our budgeting process is spend. And Dr. Ayo Teriba, who is a member of this family, I listened to him yesterday on TVC, and he was saying that we need to change the mental orientation around the budgeting process. Ministers and directors of agencies, they always go there to ask for money. Nobody is talking about revenue. That, according to him, only about 4 or 5 ministries generate revenue. So everybody is relying on customs. But in other places, what you first do when you present your budget is that you show that, okay, you too, you can generate revenue and you meet. Everybody is going there cap in hand. Where is that money going to come from? And that's part of the problem that we have in Nigeria. The other incident yesterday was a committee looking at the state house budget, where even the chairman of the panel was saying that you are asking for 127 million for SUVs.
Or billion. 1.7 million cannot buy one SUV.
Well, it was million.
Okay,
It
million.
was million that the man said.
Okay.
And he said, go and add to it. Because we cannot be receiving visiting heads of state with Tokumbo. So everything is about money. So who is talking about productivity in this country? So the conversation, as Dr. Ayo Teriba pointed out yesterday, and I listened to him, is in the wrong direction, and that's a major problem. The other issue about NNPP, we will have a guest on it.
Yes.
And this is about the Magnitsky Act and accountability, about religious freedom in Nigeria. And you have Riley Moore, the rep from Virginia, right? Yes. And also the other representative, Chris Smith, who is from New Jersey, saying that in Nigeria there must be sanctions. And one of the persons named Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, Miyeti Allah, Kauta Hore, Miyeti Allah, the one that is known as Makban. These issues is just to remind us that all these subjects about U.S. bilateral relations, there are undercurrents, and how it plays out will be one of those issues that we'll have to deal with as we address the larger issue of insecurity in Nigeria.
Talking about insecurity, very sad that it almost seems like every other day we bring reports of another attack, kidnapping, and it's the brazenness with which these terrorists carry out their atrocities that beggars belief, especially going repeatedly to sometimes the same areas. Kaduna again is in the news this morning, and sadly, it's not for good news. It's for the fact that bandits have abducted, Catholic catechist and his wife, a pregnant wife at that, and also, the atrocities they've done. I want to put this story side by side with the story around the NNPP and naming of Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. Now, I'm glad that Dr. Bati has mentioned already and said earlier that we're going to be having a chieftain of the NNPP come on later on the show to discuss this. But I think that while we're focusing on the naming of certain people and groups as part of the people that have been identified as either funding or being affiliated with some of these religious intolerance and terrorism in the North, we shouldn't forget some of the bigger aspects of this proposed bill. I had to highlight the fact that it's a proposed bill and still has to go through process before it to be, if it will be enacted as an act into law in the United States of America. It's been presented to Congress, sponsored as a bill, so it's still under conversation. But under Section 2.17, it says the Nigerian government routinely denies, and this is part of the justification for what their recommendation or their findings were, having come to Nigeria twice. The Nigerian government routinely denies that religious persecution exists and has failed, this is the important part, to adequately intervene, including on early warning notifications of upcoming attacks, including the October 14, 2025 Plateau State massacre. So when we talk about, let's not, we focus on the fact that, people have been named, which is an important part of that legislation, proposed legislation. But even importantly, as I keep on saying, is the fact that the Nigerian government is not doing anywhere near enough. Yes, they talk about efforts that are being made to tackle insecurity, defeat terrorism, defeat these bandits and those who are, committing atrocities and destroying lives and property in the North. But there are some key fundamentals in this case in Kaduna State. They said that there were warnings for ransoms to be paid. There were, pronouncements. But we haven't seen any seriousness shown with regards to prevention, especially when intelligence is received. Very importantly, we keep asking on this table, and at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I don't think it's even a broken record, because we continue to ask the same questions until we get an answer or there's a response from the federal government. Because if we are to defeat and tackle insecurity and defeat terrorists, we must be serious and show and demonstrate seriousness. It's not just in rhetoric. It's not just saying, oh, I feel the pain, I had sleepless nights, or I'm going to dispatch it. It is, who are the people that are behind those who called back the soldiers minutes before the attacks happened? In Kebbi State. Who are the people that knew about, or when the letter was presented, it was in Kaduna State, to the government, and there was complicity, and a number of people were killed? Who are the people? Who are the people responsible? It is impossible to say that we cannot trace, or there's no way to find out. It's very simple. There's a chain of command. Somebody received it. People heard a response. Just trace it. These are the simple things that Nigerians are asking for in order for this government to show and demonstrate seriousness. That is why the government can be indicted in this bill, saying that they haven't demonstrated seriousness in intervening. And that's why I keep saying that it almost seems as if the United States of America is more interested or vested in tackling insecurity and religious persecution than even the Nigerian government. And then moving on to the Senate, I have consistently said that the Congress in the United States has taken on to investigate, have public hearings, now putting up legislation based on their investigation. Yet it's almost silenced by the Senate. 1 minute silence. Let me put it even there as well. 1 minute silence, acknowledgement of the issues. But what have they done? What steps have they taken as the legislature to ensure that they also play their part in pushing back and defeating terrorism? They can pass a bill. We don't have to wait for the United States of America to do that. And then look at what transpired when it comes to budget defense. Talking about the interface between the senator, former Senator Dave Umahi, former governor, now minister, and the Senator Adams Oshiomhole. It was a simple question, and this was his response. He says, "I'm just hearing about Mikano," quoting him for the first time, whether they are selling goods. This was when he was asked as to why an internationally recognized construction company like Julius Berger contract was taken from him in the spirit of accountability and transparency. And he said that, whether they are selling goats or cows, they are doing well. Is he saying that he was not aware, or he's not aware of the people that get contracts under his ministry, or the people that are giving major contracts to deliver on major infrastructure for the Nigerian people? And then it doesn't matter where. So even me, if I register a media company, I can go and get contracts as long as I'm doing the road. Is that where we are when it comes to integrity of contracts and how contracts are awarded? Then he says, "I'm satisfied with the quality of the work on the Abuja-Kaduna stretch, and I challenge you to an inspection. Bring the best of your concrete testers. If you test it and it fails, I will throw in the towel." And then, without really answering the question, it degenerated into a challenge of, "Do you know who I am? I'm this and that. Don't speak to me that way." A lot of times, these arguments, these bouts are distractions from the real issues. And at the end of the day, what we find out is that many of these questions are not answered. We see the tactic even happen here on TV. When you're asked a question and you don't want to, the diversionary tactic, you begin to major on minor issues around recognition of status, who I am, and then the senators come again. Nigerians just want accountability, transparency, to ensure that the process and the monies are being dispensed, money that is not even enough, as he himself, that's the minister, said that only a small percentage of the budget allocated to his ministry was released to finance. Yes, out of 3 points. That's a minute fraction of the amount of money, and that's why we keep talking about even budget performance and how much revenue or what we have on ground to actually provide infrastructure for the Nigerian people. So a number of issues, and I believe that in the course of today's show, we'll continue to dissect and talk about it a bit further. But just to say this, Nigerians want integrity, transparency, and they do deserve answers. So when the senators who are representing the people make a demand, questioning or asking for things, let's not, throw it into a shouting bout. Answer the question and let Nigerians get the real answers. I still believe he owes Nigerians an explanation for why that contract was taken away from Julius Berger and given to a Mikano, which he himself says he hasn't heard very much of.